mean,
for your understanding, yes?
I think you're agreeing something must have always.
that's the logic. That's the thing that it's not.
كن سعيدا كن فريدا عش بفخر في الحياة لا تبالي فالمعالي بالتحدي لا سواه كن سعيدا كن فريدا.
Your statement that I don't know is not actually right. Okay? You do know certain things. You know, your stance is that I know. Okay?
About this type of things.
Yes. You do know. Well, the thing is, how far can we take it? Right? How far can this argument go? How much does one know? Where is the limit? Right? Is it sufficient to make a proof of the kind that my brother was making? Right? Or anyone here is making? Is it a proof? Is what we know about words and the use of words and the use of arts sufficient to arrive at a conclusion about the subject of God? That's the question, right? And we would say yes, it is sufficient. You are saying it's not sufficient, but I say it is sufficient. Not enough.
It's going to end up being about.
Right? Our usage of words is sufficient for us to make an argument to show that there must be God. Do you understand this? What I'm saying? Have you understood? So when you say I don't know, it's not true. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's the thing that I know things, okay? But when I'm talking about the religion, about the existence, I think that our mind itself is not
Sufficient, not big enough.
Yeah.
That's not an argument. You know why? What you're saying is our minds are not infinite, and the universe and the question of God is infinite, and therefore we cannot address the question of God with our finite minds. That's what you're saying, right? It's not an argument. It's possible that with finite minds we can come to a conclusion that there is something infinite. There's no reason just because we are finite that we can come to no conclusion about there being an infinite object. You understand that? For example, we understand, mathematicians understand that there are infinite things in mathematics, lots of them. And they are finite, they are just like you and me, right? And they can make conceptions about infinite spaces and infinite spaces which are infinite in number, all sorts of infinities. Do you understand? They are finite, but they are talking about infinite things. It is possible to be finite, to have finite minds, and to talk about infinite things. Do you understand that? Okay. So just because you've got a finite mind does not mean that you cannot talk about this or to understand sufficiently to make a proof. We don't. We have sufficient. We have sufficient tools, apparatus.
Mansur,
we have sufficient
let's make a move.
available to us to make conclusions on this subject.
They can come to us.
I think that's true that we can talk about that, but to arrive at conclusion of knowing.
Okay. Yes. What do you mean by knowing? I think you've got stuck there. So there are some people who say that I know nothing, and that is impossible to know something. They're called solipsists. I don't know you're interested in philosophy. You know, have you heard of solipsists? Okay, so there's a group of philosophers who say it's impossible to know anything. Okay, so then one should ask them. It's impossible to answer them, right? So I ask them, if I meet somebody there, I say, why do you eat? Why are you speaking to me? Okay, why do you bother to breathe? Okay, why do you bother to breathe? Why do you bother to walk? Because you don't know whether you can walk. In fact, the best question is, why do you bother to eat? You know, people, if you don't know anything, why do you bother to eat? You understand my question? So the fact is that your existence is the proof that you know something. The fact that you accept your own existence is the proof that you know sufficient to kind of continue. You actually eat every day, don't you? So you know enough that you need to eat. So the claim that I don't know is just kind of a contradiction with your actual life. You see, the fundamental rule is that one must not live life in contradiction. That's the most fundamental thing. One should not contradict the way one lives with what. This is the most fundamental thing. And this belief this claim that I know nothing is a contradiction. Is the most fundamental contradiction you can have. That you eat every day and you say I know nothing. You understand that?
When I say I know nothing, I don't refer to I cannot impossibly know something, okay, or to anybody. But it's weird that we can, in our minds, know something, but when we are talking about that,
Analyze, yes.
to creation, to that, I think one person can know something but can be wrong, and that applies to everybody.
What is not provable.
This is a different argument.
If we can go back to what you were saying, so would you agree that something must have always existed, or is it possible that the universe came out of absolute nothing?
Sadat, we've been through that already, haven't we?
Would you? But I'm just rephrasing. Would you agree that something must have always been there? Must have always existed?
My logical is that to be something right now,
It's better to know
there has not nothing.
for your understanding, yes?
So I think you're agreeing something must have always.
That's the logical. It's not possible to create something
From what rocks dream of, yes.
But that's my logical, and I don't
Good.
think
That's
that
good.
my logical is the I know.
No, we have more confidence in your logical thinking than you do, because we agree with you. That makes sense.
But
There's
that
nothing
makes
wrong with
sense
that. Yeah.
in what we know here, and here it's only a little world in a big universe, and it's a little moment in all the line of the universe. So
But
I think that
do you think we'll ever be able to learn enough to make sense of something coming into existence out of what rocks dream of? That can't happen, can it?
I think that maybe
most of the time
someday
the
we
people
understand what we say now and understand
How long have you been in UK?
But I think that right at this moment, maybe that I don't understand something, that doesn't prove that this cannot.
I know.
Okay, but nonetheless, at the moment, with the amount of knowledge and logical thinking that you have, you would agree that it makes more sense that something must have always been. Something must have always been. And the universe
My
emanated
mind
from
doesn't
that.
understand too. Both possibilities for me, it's impossible. For me, my knowledge of this world,
And I know there is
it's impossible to
scenario,
have something existing always, because my mind continues following to create the beginning or the end, okay? Because that's what I know.
But something always existing is still easier to grasp logically than there being nothing.
For me, my mind when thinks something has existed always, not the stop. It keeps following and looking for the start. So both of the possibilities for me, I don't understand because my mind.
This is where we say we surrender. You know that it has to be the case. If there was nothing to begin with, there will be nothing always. Because there's something has to always exist. Difficult to accept it. In fact, you know many atheists, not agnostic, many atheists, one of the reasons why they don't want to follow a religion or religious ideology is that they need to humble themselves to someone greater than them. And they say, how can there be someone greater than me? How can there be someone powerful than I? This kind of ego stops them from, it's not actually about philosophy, rationality, or logic, it's this feeling of, even many people think, how can there be someone always? You always existed and created me.
Some of them believe
People have this feeling. it's not to do with impossibility or rationally it makes sense that yes, there has to be always something, but it may be difficult for you to accept it. As Muslims, we say we surrender ourselves because ultimately this is the true answer, whether we like it or not. Yeah, that makes us a submitter to God. Muslims, we surrender to Him because we know He was the one who created us. In the Quran, if you read it in Spanish translation, the Quran says, أَمْ خُلِقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ أَمْ هُمُ الْخَالِقُونَ أَمْ خَلَقُوا السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ بَلْ لَا يُوقِنُونَ. Were they created from nothingness? Or did they create themselves? Did they create the heavens and the earth? They have no firm faith. God is addressing who? Muslims? Of course not. God is clearly addressing the people who have, like yourselves. Think. Were you created from absolute nothingness? You obviously say no, nothingness doesn't have the energy to do anything because it doesn't have any energy. Yeah, nothing has no energy.
We don't know.
No, but nothingness.
Nothing.
This guy is a poet.
Maybe doesn't.
So God said, you thinking that this guy
From what we know by nothing, and what we define by nothing is the absence of energy and absence of everything. To do something in our universe, you need energy.
chapter like this,
We
then
know
this is not from
the material doesn't create or destroy just transform.
We need to.
They try to bring the best
Agreed. But we should only talk about the things that within this reality. We cannot say, for example, do you really think that you and I, we are a brain in a jar in a museum and having this discussion?
They failed.
Is it possible? Some people believe it. Some people believe this is not real, it's an illusion. You're actually a brain in a jar in a museum and having this illusion. But you know very well, you're feeling cold. I'm feeling cold too, that's why I'm wearing this musalla. So reality tells us that's why one of the things in any kind of thinking is say, look, am I real? If I'm real here, then of course all of these things make sense. That I cannot just say, oh, I don't know anything at all. It's possible that there's something there beyond my grasp. Nothing can create something. The nothing that we know in this universe, as we understand, it cannot make something. You are something, so you couldn't have come from nothingness. So the only possibility is left with either you believe the universe has always been there, and then you can't explain how.
There's also another thing, which is that your claim to not know. You claim not to know, right? So you claim that none of us can know something because there is doubt in everything that we can. Right? It may be this, it may be that. Maybe the laws of conservation of energy does not apply. Maybe it's just an illusion. These are all. This is dishonest.
I think even if the language
You understand what the word dishonest is? This is dishonest to some extent.
you know what you're saying,
Because what is honest is that we have to trust
how do I know?
what we already know.
Unless I see it written in
You
the
already know that you are standing there. You already know that as far as you know the wind is blowing in your hair, for example, you can see it. You know that. What you can say is that maybe there is some mistake that I'm making. But you don't have any basis for saying that I'm making a mistake. You have no reason to say it.
man in
You have no reason to say that you're making
and then when the uncle died, he had to flee.
that I am speaking to you. There is no reason for that. It is just speculation. You're just speculating. So now you're making speculation on the one hand, and everything that you know to be true about your life, you're putting it on the same level. You understand me? This is dishonest. Honesty is when you trust what you, unless you have a reason to distrust your own senses.
So when I leave this with you, I'm just leaving it back.
This is small booklet. He's going to find his son.
He's finding something for you. But you understand that it is dishonest to place two statements on the same level if they are not on the same level. Okay? The statement that you exist, my statement I exist, is not on the same level as I don't know if I'm a. No, my statement that you exist, right? My statement that you exist, and my statement that maybe you don't exist is an illusion. They're not on the same level.
We need to make a move with
Okay, we're going to go.
All right, thanks for your time. Yeah, but reassess the way you think is. Our ways of thinking always developing. we agree, we're always trying to learn something new way of thinking. So if you assess about whether we can know something or not from what he's described, and you'll find it easier to understand about this. So once we know that there is always something, this something has to be something that has qualities and attributes like energy, will, consciousness, and so on. And you realize this fits the description of a creator, God. And there cannot be more than one God because you can't have more than one absolute. So you can go step by step and then say, okay, so there has to be a creator, there has to be one creator. Which religion describes this one creator? This is where the revelation, the information that we believe to be from God settles and confirms our speculation and say, there you go, God confirms through his revelation to us that yes, I exist and I think for this reason. And this is where things will fit in when we read the Quran. Okay, take care. Nice to talk to you.
Okay, this was from